acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Common Nation. And Ms. King, would you like to introduce our presentation today?
Thank you so much, Chair. It's my privilege today to introduce Principal Matt Hall and Vice Principal Courtney Lee, who lead the work at James Thompson, and as their Director of Instruction. It's truly been a privilege to walk alongside them in their efforts to unpack the literacy skills in particular for all of our little ones at James Thompson. And it's truly been amazing because I see the growth already in the school culture and how staff are interacting. So thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to have you share today. Thank you.
Okay, we are excited to present. Paul was saying this is kind of his first year anniversary of a presentation. He didn't say
later in the year though, right?
Deja vu anyways. It's a deja vu. So our own acknowledgement. So we always acknowledge. I love assemblies because it gives us an opportunity to stop, to think, to acknowledge and give gratitude for the places and spaces that we exist in. So James Thompson resides in Theacham, which is kind of the wildwood. Up in Wildwood, and we have an opportunity to teach, to grow, to learn, and so we often stop to give that love word, gratitude, but acknowledgement of the space that we teach in, and bring that into our learning and into our lessons. So, and we acknowledge here that we're all in the traditional and treaty territory of the following people.
And a little bit of history about James Thompson. As Matt said, meaning on the edge of the forest. We also, in 1986, with the support of the Common Nation, we started an afternoon language enrichment program, and that has morphed into what we call the Cutting Commission program, where we have 2 full days of immersion for our K1s. And we also, in 2010, included French immersion, and we've had graduates all the way up to have a dual language diploma. And we have strong parent and community involvement. We've got farm to school feast, we've got a school garden, we have a pretty robust breakfast program. And our school mascot is the raven, a figure of transformation and knowledge.
And as we mentioned, school food program, I know you're going to have another presentation, but Haley has done a great job supporting. We're pretty fortunate at James Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
So who are we? I am grateful, as Matthew called, lucky to our those families. I would love to say that's recent. You'll notice that's my Brooks space. So I have been with the district for almost 20 years, but I'm lucky to work with a team that cares deeply about kids, trying to focusing on creating spaces where students and staff feel safe and connected, and by strengthening literacy, well-being, positive behavior. It's creating those learning and workspaces where people want to be. So working on that using values, we use the Ta'au from the Common Education Agreement as our themes, and we use that for setting standards of academic and excellence and collective growth.
And I, as it says there, believe in a school community where every student feels valued, included, and empowered to succeed. I have a background in inclusive education, and that's where I really feel the most emphasis of my work into that inclusive practice. So that's the heart of my leadership with inclusion and ensuring that all students have equitable access to opportunities to help them thrive.
So our school goals, we have 2 school goals this year. On advice from our director, we decided to collapse. Last year we had 3 goals, we collapsed them into 2. And last year we had literacy, character development, and then Indigenous education. And what we did is we took out our 3rd, and rather than just removing it, we embedded it into the other pieces. So our goal that we're going to focus on today is improving literacy achievements for all students by the end of 25-26 school year. The implementation of structured, evidence-based instruction aligned with the School District 47 Literacy Foundation, a toolkit, teacher toolkit for the K-3 reading instruction. And then inside of this that we're going to go into, we're going to look at that Indigenous knowledge and the learning principles. So this is the goal that we want to talk about today.
So our goal also is practice alongside the district operational plan. So we've connected it to the cultivating an ethic of learning, ensuring that early learners and students have the best
inquiry. Again, new piece as we were looking at is what question did we want to ask? So we spent some time together. In our staff meetings, we introduced this idea of that inquiring minds, like what is it that we're trying to accomplish? So as we asked the question, we narrowed it to this idea of what interventions have the greatest effect or most effective in reducing the literacy gaps. Again, that's what we're always looking at when we talk about classrooms, having this gap of where we want kids to be and where they are. So what interventions help us reduce those gaps, in particular for students with learning differences?
So far, we've been using our DIBELS assessment data. We've also been able to do progress reports, and we are using a Lexia 4.5 Empower Up as intervention for some of our students. That is able to provide tracking information where we can see in real time where they are moving forward and where we need to target more interventions. We've had literacy staff meetings, so that's embedded into our staff meeting. The first 20 or 30 minutes of each staff meeting is completely dedicated to literacy groups. We've also brought in Calico, who's done some amazing work with our teachers, and our teachers have been super receptive to it. And they've taken all of her teaching and they've been so excited to bring it into their classrooms. We are able to use student engagement indicators just through observation, persistence, and then using those progress reports to see how engaged they are and how far they're learning, and then we're able to either pull back or push in more.
And just putting on as part of staff meetings with the literacy piece, the word that I would use is engaged. When they've come in with Calico, I have been so impressed, and Vianne and I have talked about this, at the level of engagement, the conversations, the questions, the deeper thinking that staff had. And then my last staff meeting, I had on the board of what they wanted to do, because ours line's funny with our busing and all that. So I said, first 20 minutes, I want you to get into your language groups, because we have French immersion and English, and I want you to talk about the things that Calico introduced. How are you using it? What have you used? Is there a change that you might want to work? How is that working with you? Go. And rather than getting into their language groups, which is their comfort group, they're used to that, they went in their own groups. So I had my grade 2-3 English with my grade 2-3 French, immediately start discussing how are they teaching, how are they engaging, what are they using, how are they adjusting it. So they didn't do anything, well, they did exactly what I wanted them to in a very different way, but I was excited because they were engaged in talking about how they're using the instruction that Calico had given them in a way that was authentic to them. And so again, that word engagement is huge, that they're engaging in this process and they're adopting the things that she's asking and they're wanting more. They're wanting to hear more of what she's sharing. So very exciting. So what have we learned? We have learned that explicit systematic instruction is most effective. We're seeing that. Again, the progress reports that comes as people are using UFly. So one of the things our staff have done, our primary staff in particular, the English stream came to us in September, and they said, we want to work together and we want grade-based UFly instruction. And so at 1:30 every day, they break it up. So our kindergarten teachers keeps all the Ks. Our K1 teacher, sorry, our 1-2 takes all the ones. And they separate it out so kids are in smaller groups in connection with our librarian. And they separate K1, 2, 3, and the kids learn that UFly lesson. They work together. So they're finding that by making a small change that came from the teachers that we supported. We're like, absolutely, we'll make that work. We're seeing that this type of instruction and noticing is closing those gaps. Then on Fridays, they do their progress reports and they make adjustments. So small skill-targeted intervention groups. This is working with Ruth and Denise and Courtney, working with kids, creating these intervention groups. We're seeing changes there. That progress monitoring that teachers are doing in the class allows them to identify, not just waiting for when we dibble kids, kind of those 3 times of the year, the beginning, the end doesn't informs kind of future decisions, but we want teachers weekly, more frequently, taking a look at it and making those adjustments. Multisensory structured designs, so collaboration among staff, strengthening practice. So these are the things that we have seen to be effective. This culturally responsive approach, I'll touch on this one because, like I said, we're trying to integrate that in. seeing the look of kids as they engage with their own culture and stories is amazing, right? As we share stories that they hear at home, or the ta'ao, integrating those into our lessons, talking about how it matters, you can see the effect that it has on individual students. As we talk about honor and respect, we have Melvin Mitchell that works in our school quite frequently, and he has those conversations. So the connections between community and school help strengthen that understanding and help strengthen those connections.
Some of the actions that we've been taking are again, integrating the common language, stories, values, and land-based learning into the literacy instruction and intervention practices. So that's been one of our big actions. This is a little bit repetitive of the last slide, I guess. We've been implementing those targeted structured literacy interventions and increasing our progress monitoring. So the frequency of that progress monitoring is helping us refine groups more frequently so that kids aren't in an intervention group when they're not needed, and some kids that might need to get in can get moved in quicker that way. That collaboration between our staff, as Matt said, has just been incredible to see them taking it and they're just running with it. They're working with it. They're doing amazing. The tiered literacy support is part of the sessions that we've done with Calico, where we've been able to take that DIBELS data and we've been able to make it make sense for the teachers, so they can take that raw data and they can put it into an RTI triangle and see where they need to target their instruction more and where they need to have a push-in support or a more pull-out support. And we have created a new student support team. So it's not necessarily a new team because it's people who have already been there, but it's Matt, myself, Ruth, who's our intervention teacher, Denise, who's another intervention teacher, and Hillary, our social emotional learning teacher. So we are able to meet monthly, track students who might be teachers can use anecdotal observations to color code them, and then we can track where they're at and target their needs where they're at.
So as we were preparing this presentation and we were talking about this new, and I'm really excited about this new student support team. It's not something we've done in the past. It is something that other schools do, but we have been talking about how can we be more responsive to the needs as they come up. So this is an artifact that we're using. So as we meet, moving forward, the idea is that once a month, the first Wednesday of every month, our team will get together. And so it's got every student. So I do a download from my end. I have every single student in the school. I mark them by gender, grade, homeroom, what their designation is, and if they're Indigenous, if they have Indigenous ancestry. So as a table, I'm able to filter on all of these fields. Now these three columns, social, as in social emotional, literacy, numeracy, these are subjectively added by teachers. And I say subjective in the fact that teachers are combining all the information that they have. So they know what their DIBEL results are because Calico's taught them how to review their DIBELs and how to assess students where they're at. And then their numeracy. And what I want them to do is pick a number between 1 and 5. Where are they at? Just give me a number. And that number is going to change. Before each of their meetings, I'm going to remind teachers, hey, remember to pop in. If there are changes to your data, make the change. And then we pop in as a group, and I say, all right, I'm going to filter in my literacy and show me my 1s and my 2s. So I can select the 1 and the 2s, but I just want to look at Division 1.
Matt, is 1 and 2 high or low?
Good point. 1 creates a red. Red is low.
Okay.
5, so green good, red bad.
Okay.
Red help. Red help. Yeah, that's the idea. So, and the colors in between are because Excel likes to have 2 colors or 3 colors, and then it splits it in between, which is why the 5 are nice, right? And so then what we do is we show me my 1s and my 2s in my social, and then we look at who can help in those areas. So some kids, for example, this one here, social and literacy, they're going to get supports for literacy from Denise and supports from Hillary as well. But the idea is that I can filter and I can say, are these kids covered? Is someone seeing this child? And if a teacher has made that change, I could say then, let's look at Ruth's caseload, just filter the whole school on Ruth. And if I see that Ruth is now seeing a kid that teacher thinks is a 4, that they're doing okay, let's talk about that. How is that kid doing? Do we need to make a shift? Is this time to do that? So it allows us, rather than waiting for those DIBELS results, waiting to have a meeting, it allows us to be a little more responsive and looking at changing out, as Courtney said, looking as we move along, how do we shift those groups and how do we check it.
Sorry, how often did you say teachers are going in there, monthly?
I'm inviting them monthly.
Okay.
That may change, we may adjust it. This is new. We're exploring it. I'm gonna actually make some time to go watch what Westview does. Westview is doing a great job at this kind of work. But it is checking not just our literacy, but we wanna keep why our team includes these people. And then we keep notes for each month of what things are we doing so that we have a record. But it's essential, teachers have access to this. It's a bit of a transparency piece as well. How are we working? Who are people working with? But it's a team. It's not, Ruth's kids, Denise's kids, Courtney's kids. It's our kids. How do we support our kids? Any other questions on this?
Is there a bit of a balancing act? Like I see like there's a female in grade 4 and she has 2 1s and a 2. She's getting support in her 1s, it looks like, but not her 2. Is that just because there's only so much attention and capacity?
Right? And even in this one, like numeracy, we don't have numeracy intervention, but we want to track it. We want to see what that looks like, where are people at, because the other thing I can do is I can filter on homeroom 1, and I can see that homeroom 1 has like a lot of reds in numeracy. How can we support? What can we do to support in that space? Okay? And so, full disclosure, teachers have not been in to do this yet. So I went and I populated so you can see how that works. But logically, that could exist, that there would be 1 and 1. But these are just numbers attached, more for exemplary, because we're new, we're trying. But I wanted to show you what it would look like. Okay? This is our last slide.
So our next steps, they really just boil down to engage, monitoring plans. So we're going to continue engaging with teachers, we're monitoring students, and we're adjusting our plans based on the engagement and the monitoring.
And that was, we have one more slide which says, thank you. So, yeah, thank you. Does anyone have questions about what we are attempting to do, what we're looking at, thoughts?
I think it's amazing that you're able to be more responsive to the student needs and looking at each of them for what they need specifically. But you mentioned going in to watch Westview to see what they're up to because are they having good results? What is piquing your interest over Westview? Yeah.
So they have an existing teams that meets, I want to say monthly, and does a very similar thing where they review how students are doing, do we need to make adjustments for interventions, and then it's an opportunity, so it's like Michelle and Becky and Brittany, and there's a group of them, and then they have a conversation together, right? They can collaborate together, but they make time to be able to look at names, and that there may be multiple people that are working with the same child, so it gives them a point where they can touch base on that data. So the advice to me to meet with Westview came from Calico. Calico's like, because I was explaining her what we were doing. She said, you need to check with Westview. They're doing a really great job. So that's why, is looking at what they're doing. But my understanding is Westview meets, and then they talk about their groupings and assesses them.
Amazing, and really supports how a student can be, how the sense of belonging can be facilitated through the number of touch points that you're having. And at some point, you might even be able to lay over that data to have a look at student survey results and find some opportunities there too.
Yes, yeah, we love data.
Yeah, you do.
So much fun, yeah.
Yeah, I remember in our festival reports that grade 4 and 7 were especially struggling with literacy, and I'm just wondering if there's any targeted interventions for those 2 cohorts that were at the end of the year their results were actually lower than the middle of the year, right?
That's an excellent question. I think that target group would be because those are the ones that we were assessing, right? The grade 4 and the grade 7 are going to be coming out of our FSA results. And so I think that would be true every year. So we haven't necessarily targeted the grade 4s and the grade 7s, simply because the current grade 3s and grade 6s will be those 4s and 7s that may have a similar result. And so what we're currently doing is really looking at that early intervention piece, knowing that even looking at our 7s, we know that our 7s need supports. And one of our realizations is we've spread out our interventions K to 7 for a long time, and it hasn't really enabled us to really get those early intervention pieces in place. So we're trying to lean heavily into tier 1 and tier 2 instruction for our grade 6, 7 teachers, making sure they have supports, making sure they have resources, and having our intervention team put extra support into those primary grades, so that we catch them when they're young. Because if we spread our intervention supports all the way to grade 7, we're not giving as much time as we would like. And so the hope is, and what I feel like the district direction being, that those early intervention supports are really important, and that we'll see the results. So one of the major changes we've seen through this process is Claudine has started using UFLOT for French. And she's worked really closely with Calico this year, so she teaches K1 this year, but K. And she's adjusted her practice, and the kids are really picking up on letter sound, letter names, and so things that they're expected to know but are really cementing it. And the idea being is that as they improve, that the teacher that gets them next year, they're just better, right? So specifically to your question, there isn't something specific for our 4s and 7s, but rather we're seeing that score, which is why we're saying, we need to change. Whatever we're doing is not servicing our kids. And so when we talk with staff, it's things like, we can't change our kids, the only thing we can change is ourselves. I can't put I'll annotate that. That we can change our practices. So what can we do different to support the kids that we have in our group?
Do we know how long we've been focusing on the primary for literacy? Like how many years that's been?
Kristen, when did the early literacy interventions really become a push, would you say? I'd say since I was a school principal, we've been having those conversations, but Kristen, when would you say?
You know what, we've been working on this for quite a few years, but I think Matt's conversation around shifting into that more energy into the early intervention is yeah, I would say last year and into this year, because we're really seeing that that's what makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Rather than playing catch up when they're older, just like Matt very clearly articulated, well done.
Yeah. So I know this year, well, last year was our first year at JT, and for both of us, and we started having that conversation of, like, we have these kids and we've been kind of these small hits all the time. So how do we shift our Ruth's time, because Ruth's time is 0.8, it's 0.8. And how do we really make some of those efforts, and what supports can we put into that tier 1 instruction? And that's a lot of what Calico is doing with teachers, is how do we improve our tier 1 and our tier 2, because our tier 3 kids are also in tier 1 and tier 2. We want them in all 3. So those are some of the shifts, because often in the past, kids that needed the tier 3 were pulled out during the literacy time. So the only thing they were getting was that intervention, where they really need that hour that the teacher's giving them every single day, plus a little more. So some of those shifts look in that space as well, improving our tier 1 and 2 instruction, and that's where our teachers are super engaged, and not, I can't, it blows my mind at how amazing our teachers have done at being willing to say, help me, and that's what we get, is teachers, or even they'll give them an idea, they'll have some questions, but then they'll come back and they're like, I did paragraph shrinking in the library. It was our librarian did it with some of our grade 6, 7s, and she's like, it was amazing. She's like, she was so impressed at how quickly they responded to a new style of teaching they hadn't seen before, and they engaged, and they did exactly what Calico said they would do. So the teacher was amazed. It was amazing. It's like, wow.
One more question, if anybody else, it's not literacy, so I wanted to. I have another question. I was looking at your school growth plan, and the second goal that I understand Sentinel on was about like that social emotional piece and like student voice and making responsible decisions and all those pieces. It was brought to light to me recently that the eco teams is exclusively in the grade 6, 7 French immersion class. And I have a child in grade 4 at Westview, and he's 35 now, but he's been participating since grade 4, and it's been such a joy for him to be able to participate. And I was just wondering, you know, like if there's also funding that's attached to that, and so it's an equity piece too. I'm wondering why it's exclusively within one cohort and only one class and not available to all the students.
Yeah. So I think historically, the teacher in the grade 6, 7 class has been the advocate for that, and he has kind of blended it into the teaching that he does. And so oftentimes schools that have it in a wider scope will do it during lunch or at different times. So at this time, except it's our second year in, it's the situation we have is that the teacher who takes responsibility for that is engaged with it, and he does it as part of it, so it's kind of become eco group It's not something that I have tried to make changes to or looked at. I think that's a really good point. And I will have that conversation with staff. How can we widen the scope and give an opportunity for more students? I know that part of that group, like what they do is the recycling and they do some of those engagement pieces. And it's been convenient having that one under one teacher as opposed to a lunch club or something. So it's a great point, and I'll take that back and see how we can engage more learners in that process. Do they do it? I will also talk to Jen to see what that looks like at their school.
Courtney Ross does it at lunchtime, it's Thursday lunches.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a bit of a trade-off too, because if you do it at lunchtime, kids are giving up their big recess in order to do it, right? So, but it seems to be worth it. So.
Yeah, and she just opens it up to all kids.
It's intermediate, so grade 4 is the first option.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Any questions? No? Are we doing
I'm just getting her. She's setting up. She's next.
oh, she's not presenting now,
She is not presenting.
right now.
No. That's fine. Just here.
Later. Okay.
Let you do your thing.
Great. Okay, I'll read my remarks. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Happy 2026. This week in our district is Literacy Week, which gives us a great opportunity to reflect on how foundational literacy is to student success, not just academically, but in helping students find their voice, build confidence, and engage meaningfully with the world around them. I always enjoy seeing how each school brings this week to life through reading challenges, events, and activities to support learning. In the coming weeks, I know our district will be doing a literacy review that will involve students, teachers, and families. This work will help us better understand what literacy looks like across our schools today, and where we can continue to strengthen supports for learners moving forward. I'd also like to remind families that kindergarten registration opens February 1st for both English and French immersion programs. This is an important milestone for our youngest learners and their families, and we encourage caregivers to connect early and reach out if they need support navigating the process. Last week, Brooks Secondary hosted a dual credit information night. We were pleased to see strong interest from students and families. These opportunities allow students to earn both high school and post-secondary credits, opening doors to trades, academic pathways, and future careers. Events like this help students make informed choices and see what's possible beyond graduation. Finally, it's worth highlighting several important ways we are listening to students and families in the coming months. In February, schools are participating in the BC Ministry of Education Student Learning Survey, which gathers feedback on learning experiences, well-being, and school climate. Students will also soon take part in the Middle Years Development Instrument, which helps us better understand social and emotional development. Together, these tools, along with data from the Youth Development Instrument, which provides insights into the whole child and their developmental health, help to guide thoughtful, evidence-informed decisions that support student success. The board is grateful to all the staff and leadership teams who help ensure these tools are effectively rolled out in the district. Thank you to our staff, students, families, and community partners for your continued engagement and care. We appreciate the role you play in shaping strong, supportive learning environments across qathet. Okay, is anybody want to add anything to the agenda?
Yeah, I'm wondering about adding the foundation letter that came to us. Did it come to everyone at the board? The letter from foundation?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Did you not get it? Okay, I got it through my school board email, and it's a letter from foundation, asking for support. And they're looking for some acknowledgement of support by February 5th, which is when the council's gonna make some decisions.
What's foundation?
Foundry.
Oh,
Foundry.
Oh, Foundry.
Sorry, Foundry.
There is the.
Did you get
Oh,
it?
no, sorry, I'm looking at the youth summer camp. So I thought-
Okay, let's put that on to, I got it at my work email, but not on this one. Do you wanna, have you forwarded it to staff?
No, I haven't done anything, I just read it, and the deadline for some responses within the next week.
Is it recent?
Was that?
Is it recent?
Yeah, today.
Oh, today? Oh, okay, no, I definitely didn't get it then.
Well, okay, so,
Okay, let's add it to 4B.
Okay,
Can you
I'll
forward it to,
Yeah.
It wasn't addressed to let mayor and council, I think it was that.
Elisha Manson is who sent the email.
This is,
No, that one's different, Paul.
yeah, I think so.
okay, so with the adoption, motion that the regular meeting agenda of January 28th, 2026 be adopted as amended. Christian and Maureen, all in favor? Adoption of minutes, motion that the regular meeting minutes of December 10th, 2025 be adopted as circulated. Dale, Maureen, all in favor, thank you. Order closed meeting on December 10th, 2025, the board met in camera to discuss items which include property and personnel. And then incoming correspondence, emergency weather shelter.
I was just wondering if staff can confirm whether the city has approached the district regarding emergency shelter space, and whether the portables referenced in the letter are currently in use for educational purposes.
No one other than Ms. Reed has reached out, as far as I know, on the topic, and the letter and the portables are currently in use, but anticipate to be surplus the district needs once the project's completed, so after September opening.
Right.
They don't have water. Like, there's no water, there's no washroom, there's no sink, right?
No, I'm
Yeah.
not necessarily saying it's a
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
good fit, I'm just saying that they do
Yeah.
exist, they're likely surplus, they're probably, how to say it, longer in the tooth than where we would probably keep and repurpose. If you look at the ones at Cali Creek, they look great, and we basically tore them down to their studs. These I'm not sure that they're worth it. What Jared and I had talked about previously, we would assess and determine if one or two were worth storing temporarily and doing something for future need, but we haven't, just because of where we are in the cycle, we haven't really put any thought to it.
How many are there initially?
Fine. But to
Oh,
your
do you have a
question,
question?
the
Nope.
city
Oh.
never asked, has, I think they've also got this letter and they haven't reached out since, but this was only a week or so ago.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification. Would the staff recommend any action then associated with the information that's provided?
Probably not beyond responding and acknowledging the letter. I think it'd be more, if the city reaches out, we have something to action that's outside of our normal scope, and it wouldn't, not even relevant till next winter.
Right, and it's my
Or planning for
understanding the
next
issue has been immediately resolved
Yeah.
anyway. Yeah.
And this wouldn't have helped the current circumstance.
No.
Thank you.
Any more comments or questions on the letter? Okay, I found the email from Maureen.
You're gonna have to read it to us, Maureen.
What?
The boundary
Nobody
letter.
else has the email that you want to talk about.
I have it right here. Okay, so, I got an email through the school board and it's from, the woman who works in Foundry,
Della.
do I have to say her name?
Della?
Or Del, yeah, okay. So the problem is that the Foundry got $250,000, from forestry. And at the last council meeting, the council decided that they were gonna rescind the $250,000. And the 4 reasons they gave, according to the email I got, are based on, misinformation. And so they're quite worried about this because the language damages the likelihood that the people are gonna fund the program. It puts young people in a very disparaging light. And so she sent this around asking for people to either come to the meeting on the 5th and show support for the program. The council didn't vote on it the last meeting, they ran out of time, so that's why it's been pushed up to the first one. And I mean, it's something that we've supported all the way along. And is it something that we can send a letter to council in support of Foundry? Or, I mean, how do people feel about it? That's what they're asking, is to flood it with letters and to go to the meeting if you want to throw your support behind them.
And speak, like
Hmm?
speak at council, like have a
They'll
delegation?
probably have a delegation, I think they're just looking at some show of numbers for people who have supported this all the way along. Because the way the funding goes, it's heavily funded at the beginning, by community, and then provincial funding kicks in at the different levels, so it's really important now that they have some, support, financial support, and that $250,000 is a lot of money, so I don't know if we.
I have reviewed the email separately, but I didn't get it at my school district account, but I agree, I think that's something that we should support, and I would support staff drafting a letter.
Okay, so I have a question, I'm gonna go to the meeting, because I got this through another organization. Can I wear my trustee badge? So I'm there, so I don't say anything, but it shows a presence from board at the meeting, or is it best to keep it separate?
I think in a small community, people have an awareness about who's elected officials and who is not. I mean, I don't think the board can direct you on whether or not you wear your trustee badge. I think that if the motion is on the table, that the staff draft a letter of support for Foundry, and the board approves that motion, then we can do exactly that. And that can be delivered however they're asking.
Yeah.
And you turning up to be supportive, you know, wear your trustee badge or your hat or whatever it is you wanna wear. I
Yeah,
don't think it's
we've
right.
always kept things pretty separate though, haven't we, in terms of, individuals?
I think that if we did send if the motion passed, that we sent a letter of support, I don't think you appearing with your badge on it is counter to the letter of support that we're already sending. I think you speaking as a trustee
Yeah,
at that would be.
It's just
Or
a
is it
silent
not?
show. Okay.
Would we get the letter over time, though, that's 7 days away, the 5th, right, you said the 5th,
Yeah.
so it's very tight.
Yeah.
To have it.
We have a motion that staff draft a letter of support for Boundary as requested in the email from Della Farmer.
Happy to move.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay.
Dale, Maureen, all in favor, thank you.
What's the?
Ready to record. So I can't read it.
Fifth.
Great, motion that correspondence
You should
listed in
have it
items
now, I
four
sent
A
it to you.
and B be received. Dale? Maureen, all in favor? Thank you. Board correspondence, letter from the board to Mr. Cummings regarding the Townside Jazz Festival. A letter to, Dale Farber, Richard regarding the family summer camp. Any comments or questions? Okay, superintendent schools report. Program review of futures.
Well, I am pleased and honored to introduce Haley Samuel, who is going to lead us through a review on her work to date on the Feeding Futures program. Through you, Chair, we have a memorandum that outlines just the nature of program reviews, but also a brief backgrounder on the Feeding Futures program since 2023-24. And Haley has been with us since, I want to say August, and picking up a lot of the work from Ron Rainbow, who occupied this work for a long time, very passionately. Over Haley's tenure to date, Haley's been reviewing the current condition of our Feeding Futures program through the lens of looking at how we can find efficiencies in the work and find consistency across the programming. So Haley's been doing a deep dive on that work and is pleased to bring to you an update on where we have been, her consultative process, and where we're hoping to go with this. So over to you, Ms. Samuel, and I'm excited to have you join us.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me. Yeah, like Paul had mentioned, to share what we've been working on over the last 5 months, which has been built on the foundation that Ron and other staff members have been doing work before my time. So here we go. So first I would like to begin with the intention of grounding us to this incredible territory in which we live and work. On my drive to work from Tishosum, I witnessed the rich lands and waters that sustain so much life and richness in this territory. I get to see whales and dolphins and so much sea life and trees and many plant species, and it's a daily reminder for me that of the true beauty that surrounds us here. I would like to acknowledge the Tla'amin First Nation, on whose traditional and treaty territory that I am only a guest. The Tla'amin peoples have lived on and cared for these lands for over 10,000 years, and I have only just begun to learn about this territory since moving here in August. This has been my first experience deeply exploring a territory acknowledgement and what it means to me, and it's been a truly humbling process. I've been doing a lot of learning and unlearning, and I would like to recognize the ongoing colonial impacts, including using food as a weapon against Indigenous communities and against children who are taken to residential schools. And as part of my commitment towards reconciliation, I am working towards building a culturally inclusive food program where I will work alongside Indigenous knowledge keepers to ensure traditional foods and language and ways of knowing are represented in our food program with respect and care. And if you'd like to learn any more about the impacts of food in Canada, I do have, I worked with the Indigenous Education Department and have a one-pager with some resources on that you can use a QR code and learn some more. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Haley. I'm a certified nutritionist. I am a backyard farmer. I am a partner and a mom to 2 wildly beautiful girls and 1 very energetic dog. I'm a settler of European descent, and I have a deep love for food. I love working with the land and growing food. I love cooking and being in the kitchen and eating food and understanding food systems and education around nutrition. And the list goes on, but that's enough about me. We'll move on. So in this presentation, I'll be guiding you through 6 different components about our food program. We'll start off with a recap of the Feeding Futures and National School Food Program and some new updates. We will assess some of the community needs, and then we'll take a look at the current school food program and what's been happening up until this point. We'll go over some identified gaps, challenges, and opportunities, and review what we've been working on over the last 5 months, and then I'll introduce you to a centralized food program. So the Feeding Futures program is a provincial initiative aimed at improving nutrition and access to food for students. The funding is aimed to reach 20% of the student population that may be facing food insecurity. And this funding was originally secured for 3 years, this being the 3rd year. This was a pilot program, pilot project. The funding is to be used for food and to offset staffing costs as part of the school food programs. And they have some guiding principles that they focus on: equitable, stigma-free access to healthy food, increasing Indigenous ways of knowing and food perspectives, promoting health and wellness to support academic success, including traditional and cultural foods, and they emphasize environmental sustainability, locally sourced foods, and community engagement. The National School Food Program is an agreement that was signed with the federal government in 2024, and it is aimed to expand and enhance the existing school food programs. Now, this federal funding was committed to for 5 years and has the same spending criteria as the Feeding Futures, with the option to allocate funds towards capital purchases. Some exciting news over the last year is that our government funding has now been secured, and in June 2025, it was announced that our provincial Feeding Futures funding is now part of the ministry's base budget. And in a recent announcement, the Government of Canada confirmed that the National School Food Program funding is now permanent. So this allows for more long-range planning and capacity building. Between these 2 initiatives, our current annual budget is just over $500,000, and everything we've been developing and working on is all encompassed inside this budget. We also receive donations to our food program from community partners and organizations such as the Powell River Firefighters Charity and also the Breakfast Club of Canada. I've compiled some data to better understand the needs in qathet, which has helped me understand the impact of our school food programs and how they, what the role they play in our community. I've learned from community organizations, students, EAs, Eileen, who I don't believe is here, I haven't met her yet, but she provided me with some feedback from EAs as well as speaking with them myself. I've learned from principals and other school staff members and working closely with the Vancouver Coastal Health, pulling data from our region and through our MBI and YDI reports. So I put together some words that encompass the data I have been gathering. Some words that stand out are equity. There's some inconsistencies to healthy food access across our schools. Increased need. We've seen a steady increase in students accessing the food program since 2022, which correlates with the rising inflation and food insecurity stats. Low income. Nearly 25% of all children in the region in 2020 were considered low income. Inflation. Since 2020, BC has seen a 47% increase in grocery costs, with the Vancouver Coastal Health region being having the highest monthly cost to feed a family nutritious food in BC. Community support. Between 2019 and 2025, food bank visits by children increased by 79% in BC. Mental health. A recent student survey by the mental health advocacy group at Brooks shows that food at school has a positive impact on students' mental health. Health assets and eating habits. Last year's MBI reports a decline in grade 5s eating breakfast regularly and a decline in eating meals regularly with an adult. Food insecurity. Last year's YDI reports only 52% of grade 11 students say they have access to healthy and affordable food. So healthy eating is increasingly unattainable for those living on low incomes, and it's leaving many families struggling to meet their nutritional needs of their children. This is where our school food programs come in. So research suggests that when students are well nourished, they are more likely to attend school, have better improved academic outcomes, and better physical and mental health. Our vision for the school food program is that all children enrolled in the qathet school district have the resources and education to access healthy food and are empowered to make positive choices that support their well-being and strengthen their connection to local and global food systems. This is a bit of an overview of the current school food program operations, where each school independently runs their own food program. Each is a little different in their management and their delivery, but generally, our office managers shop for groceries from our local grocers. We have EAs, admin, volunteers, students prepping food for breakfast, lunch, and snacks. Food is served out of each school kitchen and is also offered around the school at various access points. And our EAs, admin, and volunteers do the cleanup, they manage inventory, they provide weekly orders for the office managers. I've been working with each school and programs to gain and track student access numbers, and we have seen an increase from last year's reported numbers. This year, we're feeding approximately 20% of our students every day at our 6 elementary schools, Brooks, and supporting other specialized programs such as Partners in Education, Brooks Offsite Program, Guided Indigenized Journey to Excellence, Strong Start Childcare, and our Family Support Liaison Workers. Reflections over the last 5 months have identified gaps in the current food program that we're working to reweave to ensure that our students, staff, and programs feel better supported. So 4 of the main themes that have appeared are time challenges, equity and inclusion, health and nutrition, and program operations. It takes time and resources to run a consistent, equitable, nutritious meal program to an increasing number of students. Our EAs are needed in the classroom, and that doesn't give a lot of time for menu planning, ordering, preparing food, service, and cleanup. We've seen some inequities across schools. For example, some schools provide a different hot breakfast, a different meal every day, versus other schools who put cold yogurt, banana, and a boiled egg out, which is still great. Students are still getting fed. But when you're looking through an equity lens, I would say one school has an advantage over the other. There are opportunities to enhance nutrition through our menu offerings, through better development, while also better aligning with our district sustainability goals. And program management is challenging at the school level due to time constraints and infrastructure. So it makes it also challenging at the district level due to the inconsistencies across schools. Which leads me to the path forward, our centralized food program pilot. To address these gaps, we've been developing a pilot for our centralized food program that we're launching this year to provide a more consistent, equitable, and sustainable program. So what does that mean? It's a new breakfast, lunch, and snack program for our elementary schools with support for Brooks and other programs. We'll have intentional menu development by nutritionists, dietitians, and professional cooks. We will be using an internal school meal ordering system where we will be accessing bulk procurement of food because our meals will now be prepared out of a central kitchen at Brooks and distributed to the schools. Open access remains to any student who comes to school hungry, with ongoing work to lessen and remove those barriers.
Is it, like the Brooks food program that's gonna be preparing?
No, outside of that.
Okay.
Yeah. So why the transition to this model is to deliver a consistent, equitable, nutritious meal program to an increasing number of students, to relieve staff of administrative tasks such as menu planning, food procurement, tracking, and labor-intensive prep work, to increase cultural inclusivity by incorporating traditional foods and Indigenous ways of knowing into the school food program, for effective management and tracking to run a sustainable program and to allow for more accurate reporting to the ministry, to embed practices and provide educational resources that support a local, sustainable, and circular food system. And all of this to ensure that students, staff, and programs feel fully supported. And all of this work that we're doing reflects the district's strategic plan around equity and expanding school food programs to ensure that all students have access to nutritious meals and are ready to learn.
Has it been, maybe I'm asking before you're gonna tell us in a minute, but did it go out to like someone's contracting to do the food preparation there?
We're hiring a cook.
Oh, so it would be someone dedicated to
Yes.
this, an employee?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, I'll get into that.
Yeah. I'm getting ahead.
Yeah, I know, there's so much to it, I get it. How will the centralized food program align with our Feeding Futures, the guiding principles that they put out? So launching our central kitchen and distribution program will allow for consistent open access to food to any student who comes to school hungry while decreasing the requirements on school staff. It'll allow us to enhance the nutrition and well-being of our students, increase traditional foods at school, working alongside our Indigenous Education Department, the Fa'aman Nation, the Indigenous Education Council, and Métis Nation BC, to connect the food program with Indigenous principles, to provide food literacy resources and hands-on learning experiences for teachers and students, all while looking through the lens of relationship building, sustainability, and supporting a local circular food system. So what does this look like? It will consist of 2 pillars. We have pre-made menu items and we have grocery items. And our pre-made menu items will be based on a scratch-made food model using whole, raw, or minimally processed ingredients. And these will be transported to schools cold for reheating if necessary. Grocery items are for those additional offerings like fruit and vegetables, just-in-case items to have on hand like breads and spreads, ingredients for parent volunteers running breakfast programs, or for those students that have specific food needs related to their IEPs. The menu rollout will happen in 2 phases. Well, we'll start with lunch and snacks and introducing a similar menu to what they have currently, where we can make small tweaks to nutrition level and sustainability practices. And then a phase 2 would be looking at expanding the menu to support breakfast and include more diverse offerings. So here's a brief overview of the program operations. We'll start off with 4 elementary schools that are in proximity and then begin to support Brooks and other schools and programs. Our orders will be placed in advance through an internal online ordering platform based on a 2-week rotating menu updated seasonally. Food will be prepared daily by professional cooks out of the Brooks kitchen after the culinary arts program is finished and distributed to schools the following morning. School food budgets will be amalgamated into one for the school food coordinator to manage, and regular communication with the schools to ensure that the program is efficient and working for individual school needs.
Sorry, the online ordering platform versus Save On.
So everyone's ordering from Save On Foods or local grocers right now, so doing shopping through different grocers. So the
Okay.
schools will now come to an internal online ordering, which will have our menu options and grocery options. Yes. So the program will roll out in phases for the rest of the school year to ensure that all areas of the new program feel good and supported. So phase 1 being the setup phase, including data input, hiring kitchen staff, menu development, outfitting the distribution van, developing communication strategies, protocols, and resources. Phase 2 is where we will be piloting the central food program with one school to start off with, one elementary school, and that is, it's a work in progress. We're figuring that one out right now. We'll work out any operational challenges that come up and plan for any requirements needed for increased production with our operations department. In phase 3 is where we will expand to additional schools using feedback to resolve any operational challenges as we go. And in phase 4 will be year 1 of our central food program, where we can increase food support to other programs as we go, while continuously improving the program through continuous feedback and midpoint check-ins with our schools, with our parents, and our students. And all of this, we need our core central food team to make this happen. So the roles needed to ensure that we have an effective, efficient program. We have some existing roles. We have our EAs, our office managers, and school food coordinator. The school food coordinator will now be /delivery driver. And new roles would be a district cook, which we have put a posting out for last week. And as the program expands, we'll take a look at hiring and creating another position for a prep cook. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much. Love to hear your questions. I know there's probably a lot.
Is the intention to send the amount of food that the children are accessing currently to each school, or the amount of food that would feed everyone at the school?
Who's accessing currently? Yeah. So it's designed for 20% of the population, which we are feeding right now. So it's not a universal program where everybody is. It's not meant for everyone at the school, but for those who are in need. Although it is open access, so anyone who comes to school hungry can access the program.
And what happens to the leftovers?
That's a good question. So I think currently right now they're sending them home with students. If there's an extra sandwich, or they're sending them home, or so distributing them that way.
I have a question about accessing local food sources. Best case scenario, how much food do you think can be locally sourced from growers here?
That's also a very good question. I don't know exactly that answer yet, but I have been working with a lot of the local farms and building those relationships, and haven't moved into that quite yet but there's a lot of pre-planning that you need to do in that case, right? So right now I'm working with some farms just trying to, and it will come with menu development as well. Once I start working with a chef, a cook, then I'll really be able to understand how much we will need for our menu items. So good things to look into, definitely. Yeah. The Feeding Futures, it's not a requirement as of yet, but they do require us to track, or they might require us to track 30% of local BC food. So not necessarily to this area, but BC produced food. That's the goal, yeah.
What kind of packaging are we looking at?
So I'm looking at, within our transportation for the van, looking at these modular systems that are that hold transporting units, and they hold hotel pans, so slide hotel pans in there. Now, if we're talking about sandwiches, then maybe, I haven't quite looked into it quite yet, but what I'm envisioning is for individual sandwiches, having them wrapped in something that could be composted. Yeah. Or if it's something like baked oatmeal that needs to be reheated, could just be cooked in that pan for reheating in that pan.
And the schools have bowls and plates and stuff like that that they can
So
use
some,
stuff on.
yeah, so some of the schools have reusable dishware, and that's what I would like to move every school towards. Every one of the schools has a commercial dishwasher. Some schools are still using, disposable plates and packages like that, but I would like to definitely be focusing on moving towards more of a sustainable
yesterday of sending my kids to school, it was a one-off hot lunch, and I thought I ordered it, and I did not. So I had they're too shy to notify anyone, and so they came home like monsters, so hungry. So I really appreciate the idea that food is necessary for kids to be able to function on any sort of level.
Yes.
For hot lunches, like lots of packs run hot lunch fundraisers and that sort of thing. Where does that sort of fall into all this?
Yeah, and your kids go to Westview?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
okay,
it's
yeah.
a weekly hot lunch.
Yes, I'm aware of that. So I am still working on touching base with DPAC and the PACs to present this to them as well, but within the online ordering system, you're able to pick your days and what you would like. So if one day you need 60 sandwiches, you pick that. It's all tailored in there. So if the Wednesday is the hot lunch day and you only need 25 sandwiches that day, because a lot of kids are getting that hot lunch, then you're able to customize it that way.
What about the nutrition that goes along with pizza once a week?
Yes. That is a bigger topic to be discussed with DPAC, yeah. It's on my radar.
Ellie and I talked a little bit about this because you're right, it bears conversation around, you know, perhaps working with PACs on the education, the nutritional values of these things, and maybe pizza isn't a weekly thing, or I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but it's far too early for us to really kind of, you know, work to dismantle any of those sorts of things, but to work alongside.
Yeah.
I plan my Wednesday dinner around the lunch because I know it has to be low sodium because I eat so much.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I know that there is something in place for, you know, looking through an equity lens, but I believe that they order extra pizza and are able to give it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting topic.
Any other questions? No, I had 5 questions laid out for you, and you answered every single one of them in the presentation, so it was very well done.
Oh, great.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. There's so much to it. It's so hard to compile it into a short presentation, but
You did
yeah.
a great job.
Thank you guys very much.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, it's hard to follow that. So,
This will be a really
yeah, this is, so just December, pursuant to the report, we had two suspensions in December of 10 days or less nonviolent. One was a vaping incident, and the other was kind of a non-compliance, leaving the school without permission, kind of a potpourri of bad decisions, really, I guess. So.
Okay, motion that superintendent of schools report be received as presented. Dan, Gretchen, all in favor? Thank you. Nothing from the secretary treasurer today?
No, not today.
Okay, committee of the whole report for January 14th, 2026. Recommended motions arising from the committee of the whole meeting. Board authority authorized course. Motion that the Board of Education approve and support the adoption of the Career Sampler 12A to the suite of courses offered to our qathet school district students. Gretchen, thank you. Any second? Maureen, all in favor? Thank you. Second motion, trustee remuneration. A motion that the consideration for any amendments to our annual trustee remuneration for 2026 be deferred until after the conclusion of sector bargaining. Dale, Gretchen, all in favor? Thank you. Other business, policy 9, board representatives. Dale? Do you want to speak to it at all?
Yeah, for sure. Let me just get to it. Okay, yeah, so the proposed motion is laid out in front of you, the rationale. I don't know if I need to read it. Do you read the agenda package? No? Okay, I'll read it. Sure. Do you want to read the motion first, and then I'll read the rationale?
Love to, happy to. Motion that the board directs staff to review and revise the board policy related to committee and school liaison assignments to better reflect a collaborative and inclusive process, and further that the revised policy include a process whereby trustees collectively discuss interests, skills, experience, workload, and equity considerations. The chair facilitates the discussion in a neutral, orderly manner. Consensus is sought wherever possible, and committee and liaison assignments are confirmed by board motion.
Okay, so the motion arises from reflection on the recent committee of the whole discussions and is intended to support alignment between board policy, governance best practices, and the board's commitment to collaboration and shared leadership. The core responsibilities of the board chair include presiding over meetings, maintaining order and decorum, ensuring compliance with legislation and board policy, and acting as the board's spokesperson when authorized. The assignment of trustees to committees and school liaison roles is not prescribed in legislation, but rather established through board policies 5 and 9. Reviewing this section of policy presents an opportunity to clarify process and further strengthen transparency, consistency, and collective accountability. A collaborative approach allows trustees to consider interests, skills, experience, workload, and equity in a shared forum, supporting effective participation while respecting individual capacity. Under this model, the chair continues to play a key leadership role by facilitating discussion and supporting orderly decision-making, while the board collectively confirms assignments through a formal motion. This ensures clarity, reinforces the board's collective authority, and produces a clear record of decisions. Overall, the approach reflects the board's core values and supports respectful working relationships and offers a clear, inclusive framework for committee liaison assignments moving forward. So for me, this isn't about past practice. It's about setting clear, respectful framework going forward that reflects how we work together as elected colleagues. For me, collaboration is the very nature of board decision-making and our shared responsibility as elected trustees, hence the motion arising from the committee of the whole conversation.
Comments or questions?
I really like it. I think a big piece of what I was talking about at the committee of the whole is just trying to create parameters around decision making so that they represent our collective values instead of resting with one person. And I feel like this process will like increase collaboration, increase like our understanding of each other, and like build on relationships, which I value all of those things.
Well, I think you captured what came out of that meeting
Mhm.
very well.
Mhm.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor? Okay. Any questions? Any questions?
Well, I just had one question to do with food. It just came into my mind. I'm not sure if you know. I was just wondering about the when students grow their own food in their at their schools.
School
I'm just wondering if
gardens.
that's continuing or if you know that's still a program. I know that I was reading on the website that it was a program.
I don't think currently that's happening as very much. I don't
Okay,
think. I don't
right,
think so.
right.
Currently, no. I can do a little bit of gardening and metaphorically to find out, but I don't think that it's currently
Right, because I
happening.
know that
Yeah.
some
Digging,
schools
I'm
have
gonna
their
say
own-
digging, but
have their own
that,
gardens.
maybe it's, yeah. So, I think that's the answer, but if I come up with something different, I'll
Sure.
give you a call.
Can I just comment too, just from a personal, like, past experiences, when I was visiting schools and
Yeah.
seeing school gardens,
Yeah.
every school operated their garden very differently.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an autonomous.
Yes, and it really ebbed and flowed with the folks who were involved, you
Yeah.
know, through the volunteer programs,
Okay.
PACs and so on, and the interest for the teachers, the classrooms, the students, the
Yeah.
parents.
I guess it
So-
takes more effort and time.
For sure, and some schools had a really robust program and
Right.
others not so
Okay.
much, so it really just depends. Yeah.
I have something to add too. There's the big problem that like when harvest time comes, school's not in session, right?
Right,
Yeah.
It's
okay.
like a
yes,
huge,
yes.
like they plant and water, and then like
And then
nobody
it's
goes
done.
home and the deer eat it.
Right, right.
Yeah. I was hoping somebody might have a question about the
Sure.
locally elected, or the BAA, the course, just because the care economies course is,
Oh, right. That sounds interesting.
yeah, it's really interesting. So when you get back to, you know, kind of looking at the agenda package that came out of the committee of the whole, maybe have some questions around that, you can
Oh, okay.
reach out,
Yes.
yeah. Because I really feel like it supports, you know, a different lens for students on just
Okay.
sampling different kinds of careers.
Oh, that
Having the
sounds great.
opportunity to, you know, just get a taste of that before going out into the world. And there's such vital, important roles in our community, you know, yeah. So there are caregivers of the future.
I'll have to, I just glanced at
I know.
that, but if I have more questions, I can send
Yeah,
them to
well,
you.
and I meant to talk about that when we were talking about committee of the
Oh,
whole.
there we go.
Yeah.
Amazing person.
Yeah, our director of instruction, Diane Kitzinger's been really working on kind of that, so she would be a good
Sounds
point
good.
person on it. So.
And I'll try to be better about that because I always try to think of some things to mention from committee of the whole that I really think you might want to grab onto. And I have comments here, and then I just let the item go by while I was, I don't know, was in my own head or something.
Thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah.
That sounds
Thanks for entertaining it.
Thanks for highlighting that. Okay, motion of the regular meeting of January 28th, 2026 be adjourned. All right.